Good day, everyone. In this particular video, I will be presenting a few thoughts on the conversation among four artists as panelists to the discussion on the topic, the trouble with painting. First off, it is really interesting to hear artists talk and debate about a subject that is really close to the heart. You get to know how they see the world and learn about their thinking process and what their stand is on certain issues affecting the art world. And the video, The Trouble with Painting, offers a lot of those. Okay, so on the question of why artists continue to paint, based on some of the keywords mentioned by the panelists, artists continue to paint because painting allows them to, I'll just mention some of these keywords, to have a space on their own, a space for thinking, to be fascinating, able to think, reflect, and it becomes a way to channel ideas. Painting comes close to the practice of poetry or philosophy. All painters and artists, for that matter, would definitely agree with these ideas. I particularly like the phrase, a space for thinking to be fascinating. Painting becomes analogous to being a magician, producing out of nothing something that beguiles or captivates the viewer. Painters, through their artwork, would like to share their ideas and feelings about the landscape, a still life, or other important issues that affect society. Painters are known to get completely immersed in the process of art making, that they totally forget about time, and I should also say about space. All four panelists believe that paintings have become a commodity, a venal symbol of the commercial degradation of art, according to host David Thorpe. It becomes a status symbol, an investment property. Indeed, famous artworks have been sold to private collectors for millions of dollars at auction houses. The artworks in the hands of the private collectors become unseen, unavailable for appreciation by a wider audience. Some will agree or argue that the internet can provide virtual viewing, but seeing in real life the art piece with a feel for color and texture is very different from how one sees it as a virtual image. When a painting becomes a commodity, the painter tends to repeat himself, producing a similar output for collectors. Thus, the goal of painting becomes commercially driven and ultimately limits the creative growth of the artist. There is also the concept of whether painting can be considered as a product or as a process. Margarita Glusberg appreciates a painting more as a product, the final output that should be understood within the context of the elements of art that have been inputted into the painting. On the other hand, Vanessa Jackson looks at a painting in the perspective of the process of making it, not so much in the physical act, but within the relevant historical meanings that have been passed on from one art period to another. On the notion that painting is a limiting form of art, to some degree I believe this is true. For painting to exist, one must need a canvas or ground to work on, and paint materials and other accessories. The limitation can be in the form of size. Although huge paintings have been created in the form of murals on the facade of buildings. One can think of the size of the paintings Julie Meritou, which can actually cover the length from the floor to the ceiling of the spacious gallery. There is also the problem of preserving the painting. It appears that huge sculptural works are more manageable to set up outdoors compared with traditional paintings, which would require protection from the various eroding elements of weather. Bruce MacLean also mentioned his watercolor painting done underwater. This resonates with the debate about painting being a product or a process or the intangibility of an artwork. You do not produce anything if you do watercolor painting underwater. The process itself becomes a conceptual art and reminds one of the Zen idea of the sound of one hand clapping. Finally, Mark Leckey mentions something about not being with or being in a painting in contrast with sculpture. I find this comparison weird and not totally tenable. Yes, you can be in a sculpture if it is structurally built to accommodate one, but what about if it is completely solid or small? This was even pointed out by a member of the audience during the Q&A portion. Another member of the audience even explained brain plasticity in response to the emotional impact or connection of a painting to the viewer. You can be with or be in an artwork, whether it is painting or a sculpture, by immersing your thoughts and feelings to the very essence of what the artist is trying to convey in the artwork. For example, we feel vicariously the torment or lust for life of Van Gogh through the vibrant colors, fluid lines, and thick texture of his paintings. In fact, Leckey was contradicting himself when he mentioned earlier that he can wish an image into existence. The power of the mind to virtually produce anything. So, if it is all in the mind, why can't you realize the wish to be in a painting? That's all. Thanks for listening.